All right, guys. So I just realized that in my last video I said I was going to explain why RAID sucks, but I really don't mean that it sucks. It can suck if you don't understand how to use it properly. And I know of a lot of people that this has bitten in the ass over, many years. Different people. It's like, but it was RAID. I don't know what that means. Oh, but I lost all my data but I had a RAID. Like, yeah, well, it doesn't really matter because depending on the failure and depending on what RAID you're using, RAID should not be considered as a backup. So let's just wipe this out here. Oh man, how do I, bing, no. So we all know RAID as, and if you don't know what RAID is, it's, here, let me type it. So it's a redundant array of independent dumped disk. Here's bring that up there. So Paint is so cool. It's awesome. Open Paint 3D. What the hell? Make your first 3D model. I gotta check that out later. This is from probably the creators update in Windows 10. So redundant array. Okay, now why do I say dumb? Okay, RAID is not dumb. Let's just go to RAID. RAID is not dumb. Only if you don't know how to use it properly. Okay, let's get into it because this video could be very long, but I'm gonna just get into general rules here. Okay, it's not dumb. I say that only if you don't know how to use it. So they have a RAID, right? So everyone loves RAID. They're like, oh yeah, my thing's in a RAID though. Okay, so let's say you buy like one of these little Synology NAS things, right? And it has two disks, one disk here and one disk here. And, you have it obviously, let's say in a mirror, okay? Mirror. So, what gets copied. If you don't know about RAID, you got to go check that out on Wikipedia. I'm not going to explain the different RAID models, okay? So let's say you have it in a mirror. So whatever gets copied to this disk, a duplicate gets copied to this disk. Now that's handled by an internal controller, hardware. Oh, this is awesome. Hardware, or in some cases it's going to be software, which is basically just, your operating system is going to handle mirroring the data across. That's why it's called a mirror. It's an exact duplicate of what happens here. Boop, bloop, 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 boop, 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 boop. Okay, so now in the mirrored mode, why you use this is because, and why you kind of are supposed to use, okay, this is the big thing, supposed to use any type of RAID is in case of a disk failure. So let's change our color here for people that need some of that. And let's and a disk failure. So this disk fails. Now, the question is, why did that disk fail? Okay, or how, right? So RAID will help you. Let's say this disk has a mechanical failure. So its little spindle was spindling along and the little arm decided to just, take a crap. So here's the toilet. There's a toilet, and it decided to just flush itself down the toilet. Shit. Hold on. I gotta check something out on my email. Okay, so the spindle had a mechanical failure and decided to just go into the toilet. Yes. Now, if everything, the big thing here is if the disk has to fail properly. Okay, and what I mean by properly is, a lot of circumstances, this mirror type situation will help you because the controller or the operating system is supposed to read the smart information on that disk, and it can kind of predetermine or predetect a failure and say, oh, you know what, this disk is having problems. You get that little triangle like, oh, it's time to replace this disk. There's something wrong with it. Don't trust it. And you pull out, okay, and let me just erase this. And oh man, there's got to be a better way of doing that. Ugh, that's terrible. So you have your little thingamabob here. Thingamabob over here. Boop, boop. Oh man, I'm not used to these this tablet thing. You have your thing. This thing failed. You pull the disk out and you put in a new disk. Yay. And what's supposed to happen is, again, the controller, the hardware controller or the software is supposed to know to rebuild this disk from 0. So it says, so the controller basically says, what the didn't say it. What the, and it says, okay, new disk. Oh, new disk, the woo disk. It's a woo disk. Let's copy all the data over to it, and it's supposed to just, that's it. It says, okay, let's start from sector 0 and let's copy everything across and over. And when it's done, you're supposed to have a smiley face and everything's supposed to be checkmarked and hunky-dory. Now that's what's supposed to happen. And in a lot of cases, that will happen. Especially if you're dealing with like non-consumer equipment, like enterprise grade equipment will have very good RAID cards in them. That's why you pay a lot of money for them. And the disks also are not pieces of garbage. They typically have longer lifespan. They have advanced monitoring agents and stuff on there. So they will fail in most cases a lot better than home. But if you're dealing with home drives, you buy like, $100 1 terabyte, two $100 terabyte drives in here. Chances are, not chances are, but it can still fail properly. But let me tell you what happens when it doesn't fail properly. So let's say, new scenario. Dude, what's the shortcut? Oh, yeah. New, no control, new. Okay. Let's say you have this thing. Beep, boop. This thing fails, right? And this thing is good. And what happens is there was corruption in the file system. As this disk was dying, right? As this disk was dying, it decided to corrupt some information in the file system, or the MFT, or whatever file system you're using, NTFS or ext or whatever. It decides to just, like write nice stuff and then just kind of just write blah, 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 garbage, blah, 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 garbage. Now, it's technically not a failure at this point because, well, there's just some corruption in the files, but it's copying this back over. So now you might have a situation where you have corrupted data that has occurred from this drive being copied over to this drive. So now you have like all these blah, 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 and now you have both drives, this one being okay, this one being, messed up, and it's telling you to replace it, but it's already done damage to this drive by copying corruption across. So, and let's just say this is your boot volume, okay? Let's say this is your boot volume, and now you have corruption on your boot volume. Well, now you're, fuck. I didn't say it. I'm trying not to say it because, Google, these guys, anyways. So now you're bad. This is not good. This is non es bueno. Non es bueno. Okay? No, that's bueno. Non bueno. Okay, so this is a risk that can happen, guys, especially when you're buying these cheaper consumer stuff. Just know about this, okay? Now, this can happen in any situation. This corruption can happen on mirror, 5, a RAID 5, a RAID 6. It can happen on a 10. It can happen in almost all of these instances. Now, I'm not saying it's going to, and I don't know what the percentage is that it happens. It depends on your hardware and software and drive and firmware. So there's too many variables here, but just be concerned about it. So why I say you got to be careful with RAID is you you can't treat it as a backup. It is not a backup. Okay? It is only to it is only used to help like facilitate drive failure. Okay? To help facilitate drive failure. This works, in a big production environment. You're going to want RAID. You're always going to want RAID in a production environment, like, where, dollar bills, y'all come in and stuff, and you need to make money, because in most cases, the drive will fail and you'll be able to replace it. And, and then you just bing, and then, it rebuilds properly and you're good to go. But in some cases, you can have this data corruption error also, which means, what are your options? So let's say that's your boot volume now, and it corrupts. Okay, so now you have, do I need to take the data off? Okay, so I need to slave it up. Oh, 1 second. I had to take a call there. I got sidetracked. Okay, yeah, so in most situations, you'll be, you see, you lose your groove, right? You lose your groove. And this pen doesn't work on this. So, okay, so everything works out okay. And you switch up to drive. But let's say that was on your boot partition. And now you have corruption on your boot partition. Your machine doesn't want to boot. And you're like, oh. So then, okay, like, let's say you get to the point where you have to rebuild the machine, but you still need to get your data off it. You got to slave it up and like recover your data. And what if the file system's messed up and the folder hierarchies? Like, what I'm just gonna tell you is, when dealing with RAID in any situation, whether it's like a big ass company, with like lots of buildings, because that's big, right? Companies have big buildings, right? Big buildings. I don't know what I'm drawing here. Big buildings, big buildings. Or it's your little house. Wherever you're using RAID, always have like a backup somewhere. Okay? Backup. And the backup is nice. It's always nice. Look at him. It's always nice. He always has like an umbrella. What is that? Protecting him from the sun, right? It's always nice. The problem with the backup is you have to actually perform the backup. So this is a whole other video I'm going to get into. You can perform backups like manually. Okay, but this is not the best. It's like, if this was a teeter-totter, it'd be like this. It'd just be like, horizontal, right? It'd be like a horizontal thing. It's like, manually kind of sucks. It's actually more slanting on the side of stupid. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to slant that over here, and you want to be a smart guy. You want to be a smart guy, and you want to automate your backups. You want to automate them. And there's a ton of ways on how to automate it, whether you go into the cloud. I hate that word cloud, but anyways, cloud or local, or, I don't know, however you want to do it. More importantly, that in my opinion, it's more important that you find a good way to automate your backups than to do them at all. Because what you'll find out is if you start doing backups manually, you'll just forget and you won't have one for months. And then this will happen. The dreaded RAID, problem will happen. And then you'll lose your data, possibly. And you'll be like, well, RAID's supposed to protect me. Yeah, it's supposed to protect. Oh, I should have saved that. It only helps facilitate a drive failure. It is not 100%, and I'm gonna actually draw a slide here. That is how much it is not 100%. Nothing is, okay? So RAID, I'm gonna change it up here. RAID is good. RAID is good-ish, right? RAID is good-ish, but you need the backup. See you in the next one.